if you get in the Army and you really, really don't like it and you want to get out, but you don't know how other than just going AWOL, there are a couple of ways that you can get out of the Army without doing anything technically wrong. And I'm not telling anybody to do this, but this is just what I've heard. I didn't do this. I just served out my entire time, and I got out and got an honorable discharge and everything. But one of the ways is you can just start failing PT tests. You start failing PT tests, and your first one that you fail, you get what is known as flagged. So you're not eligible for promotion. You can't go to any special schools. You will have there will be no privileges granted to you. Chances are you will be the one doing all the extra duties and stuff. You'll be the one that's policing the battalion footprint, cleaning up, cigarette butts and whatnot. But if you were willing to go through that, and then you fail another one, they'll probably put you on remedial PT. They might even do it after the first one, which means that then you're going to be doing PT twice a day. And if you continue to fail, eventually after you've failed a certain amount of them, it's probably 3 of them, then they'll start the process of chaptering you out, which, they'll chapter you out under the claim that you have what is known as a failure to adapt. Like you're just unable to deal with the physical demands of the military or the Army in general. And they'll probably discharge you with a general discharge. Now it's probably general under honorable conditions, but you're still going to have to explain it away. If you were to get out and somebody pulls up your social security number, they might be like, oh, why do you have a general with, honorable rather than just an honorable discharge? So you got to explain that. So you got to be willing to deal with that. Another way to do it is to get medically discharged. And it's just to bring up something that, medically you can't do the thing that you need to do. I know that there were some guys that claimed back issues. The problem with back issues is they're really, really hard to detect and diagnose, because no one can look in there and just go, oh, no, your back doesn't hurt. There's like hundreds of little muscles, any of which could be pulled in some small way that's causing, debilitating pain. And, if you push the issue long enough, eventually they're just going to decide it's not worth it to keep you. And they'll just chapter you out. Another way to do it is just to kind of be a dirtbag. Be a dirtbag long enough, and they will decide eventually, like, you'll be kicked around. You'll be kicked around to different units, into different jobs. You'll just be doing paperwork up at, the S shops or whatever. And it will be painful for at least a year, I would say. But eventually they'll just decide to chapter you out. Like, if there's one thing the Army doesn't like is dead weight. They can tolerate some of it as long as it can pull some of its own weight. But eventually, if you are enough of a pain, they will get rid of you. And again, I'm saying don't do this, because then, if you get a general discharge, that will follow you. Like you won't be able to get a job very easily. You'll always have to explain it. It will come up, whenever they run your background check. Now, if you just decide to get out and work for your uncle doing construction or something like that, okay, whatever. But any sort of corporate job, or if you're, if you get out, if you get out with a general discharge, I'm not sure, but you might not be eligible for VA benefits or the Montgomery GI Bill or post 9/11 GI Bill. That would be a bit of a risk. You'd have to look into that. And if you don't care about it, then whatever. Some guys, I knew some guys when I was in that just the second they arrived, they hated it. And they just could not get past that. They could not move on. And eventually they were chaptered out. And in their scenario, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, you gave it a shot. You thought you would like it, and you just straight up don't. Now, nobody likes it. Like, when you get in, you are not going to like it. You're going to do things you don't want to do all the time. And, but there's a difference between somebody who's just kind of like disgruntled or doesn't really love what they're doing, or, the Army is never what you thought it would be. But then there's the people that they cannot deal with it. They hate it. Like, it makes them depressed. All day long, all they can think about is getting away. Those are the people that eventually end up a lot of times getting chaptered out. And they find the way to do it. Whether it's one of those options that I mentioned or some other thing, they're getting out. And, whatever. It's not for everybody. And the problem is they can't make it easy for you to get out, because then probably everybody would get out. They got to put some roadblocks in the way. And those roadblocks work for 99% of people. 99% of people just stay in, But then there's that 1% that are just like, I just cannot do this, and I'm not going to. And I need to get out. I need to get back to, wherever they're from, and just go back into the world. I don't care what the consequences are. And those are the people that are going to take those routes to get out of there. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting subject, because I've actually had people ask, like, what if you just want to leave? It's like, well, you can't just leave. That's AWOL. But there are ways to get out. So those are a few of them. Thanks for watching.